On this episode of Les Roll Radio, we discuss competition coaching. This is Les Roll Radio, a combat sports podcast. I'm Kelly Shennicky.
And I'm Andrea Shennicky. Welcome to the podcast.
All right, so the time of the year that everyone who doesn't come to camp is looking most forward to is coming, and it's that camp's happening. So we won't be talking about it every episode.
Yeah, not every episode.
For a while. But yeah, when this episode comes out, camp will be that following weekend.
Yeah, it's
sold
exciting.
out. Really excited. Biggest camp yet. And just a few things before we get started with this episode. We have some new merch designs, which I've mentioned before. What I didn't anticipate was that the anti-fascist merch is incredibly popular. So I'm glad that there are a lot of people who are not wanting, a fascist regime in this country. I think that that's a very low standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been very popular, and exciting news, we switched a couple of the designs up. I got requests for the design on the front versus the back, that sort of thing. So that same design, if you liked it, but you didn't like the placement, I've changed that, added a few designs. I got a request for gym bags. We also have new gym bags that are smaller. So we have the huge duffel bags, which we use. Mm-hmm. And we can fit all of our stuff. And we're 2 people and a baby going to the gym.
Yeah.
And so we have 2 gis in there, all of our crap. But there are smaller gym bags that are not even tiny. They're very roomy that we use for no gi. Or I would use if I would just go to the gym with 1 gi probably. So those are completely brand new that are on the website in a few different designs. And short sleeve rash guards. That's the biggest thing because people say they love our designs all the time, but they hate long sleeve rash guards.
I feel that.
I love long sleeve, but now we have short sleeve. So every single design we have is available in a short sleeve rash guard. So I hope that that's exciting for people. I hate talking about merch because it makes me feel like a business and we're not, but all of the proceeds do go to camp. So that's my motivator for talking about it and for doing it and for putting those designs out. So thank you to everyone. Again, this design in particular, the anti-fascist one, has been incredibly popular. So thank you to everyone who has purchased it. And we're always willing to take feedback or if there's something else you want to see. But we would like to do a giveaway for a t-shirt, and it can be any design that you like. It could be the anti-fascist one, anything else that you like that we have on our website. So if you share this episode and you tag us, make sure you actually tag Les Roll Radio, and you do that on Blue Sky or on Instagram. Those are really the only 2 places we are on a regular basis right now. And mention anything from this podcast, you will get entered to win a free t-shirt. And since camp's coming up and people will be busy and maybe behind in their podcast, let's say by Friday or Saturday, whatever that is, April 12th.
Okay.
The end of that week. So not this upcoming week, but the week after. So yeah, if you do that, you may get a free t-shirt. So an incentive for listening to the podcast.
How fun.
Thank you. We appreciate you. All right. So today we're talking about competition coaching. And let's start off with a question. What are some of the best or worst coaching experiences you've had or witnessed in a competition setting?
So I'm going to start with the worst. And it actually came from myself. I was coaching someone. And, I was assisting coaching someone. I was just essentially trying to be a hype girl because I was very new into my jiu-jitsu competition career. And I told someone, I can't remember exactly, but it was you've got 10 seconds left. You don't need to finish the choke or something like that. Or she can't choke you.
You don't even know it, and I know the story.
Okay, can you say the story?
I wasn't even there. I've just heard the story told by the person before. No, they were choking someone.
That was it. So
they were you have 10 seconds left, and of course, then the competitor's I will hold out for 10 seconds. It wasn't helpful. You meant to be you have 10 seconds left to get the choke, but
it was not.
It
helpful.
was well intentioned.
It was well intentioned, but it was not helpful.
And it is the perennial example of perhaps a thing to not do while coaching, and it's valid.
Yeah,
but I love that I know the story from hearing it so many times.
My memory's poor,
but it makes you sad.
I just figured I might as well give.
But it was a learning opportunity. You learned that wasn't a thing you should do.
At least at that point in time for that person. Yeah. I feel
There's probably
situation depending.
Yeah, situation dependent for sure.
So I gave a worst.
What about best?
I can't think of an example
of like good coaching you've seen or had. Damn, you're just like, it's all been trash.
It's all been awful. No, I feel like when Risser coaches me, she's very specific in what I need to do.
She is.
And
she's
helpful.
Also sassy, and that's kind of fun.
Yes, yeah, I like that.
My worst was I was sitting next to Nikki Ryan at Nogi World.
Okay, yeah.
And he won't remember this, but there was a coach coaching a guy, and let's say that guy's name was Fernando.
Okay.
I don't remember, but something like that. And she could not have been louder, and she was screaming at Fernando and using Fernando's name over and over again. And she was just mad. It was not helpful coaching. It was hype coaching, but like to the point of just being like very uncomfortably aggressive. And Fernando kept looking away from the match. Like it was so intense that Fernando was distracted. Fernando was also just getting fucked at that point, let's be honest.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't even a finals match. I don't know why we were whatever. But everyone like in the stands was just like laughing at it at this point.
Laughing at the coach coaching?
Yeah, because it was just really, really like over the top ridiculous. And I remember Nikki Ryan's like, poor Fernando or something like that. Like, so I just, he doesn't know me, but by circumstance was sitting next to him at Nogi Worlds once. So that was my worst example. I don't know we're going to get into this, but like for me, I like people who don't actually say a lot.
Yeah.
Is more helpful for me and are really clear and specific. So maybe those kind of coaches are the best. I also like listening to other people's coaches more than my own. Like I actually kind of find that more valuable.
So like when you went and competed on your own, that's
I just
probably
listened to
what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I actually try to do that. I actually try to listen to the other person's coach, even when I have a coach there. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm probably very hard to coach. I admit that. To that end, let's talk about the role of a competition coach. And I think one thing when we talk about competition coaching is we always hyperfixate on the actual match or the day of the competition. And we don't talk a lot about pre-competition responsibilities, what, if any, there are, but also after competition responsibilities. And I think it's also important to differentiate types of coaches. Like not all coaches are great at every single thing in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean technique, I mean even style of coaching. And your day-to-day instructor that you learn under may not be the same person who even preps you for competition. You may have a competition coach at your gym. It's different. It really is like a different sort of thing. Or you might like a person more for classic instruction, and you might like another person more for competition coaching and prep. And it's just going to be different depending upon the person and the coaches that you have available to you. But pre-competition responsibilities, again, a thing that we don't often think about, but, actually actively helping athletes develop a strategy that's based on their game, but also their likely opponents. And in jiu-jitsu, I don't feel like we do the latter a lot because we're just like, impose your will, have an A game. And we don't do that in other sports. We don't do that in MMA. And it's probably a little bit easier in some of those other sports where you have like one fight. But we can do that in jiu-jitsu too. And I was kind of told like, don't really look up the people you're competing against early on. And I now think that that's actually a mistake. I think that that's good intel. It shouldn't maybe inform all of your training, but it's valuable. So for example, for Master Worlds, I did that and Jacob did too. We looked up all of my opponents and, it's not even about having like a specific thing for each person, but it's knowing, for example, okay, overwhelmingly, I know that in this bracket, and it was a big bracket, so it's hard to prepare, right, for individual matches that you may or may not even have.
Right.
You don't know how it's going to be set up. But I know that there are only 2 people that pull guard, and I want to pull guard, but I really I love when people pull guard on me too, so I'm comfortable with that. So I know if I go against these 2 people, I'm giving up the guard pull. One pulls to single leg X, one pulls to De La Hiva. One I'm more comfortable with than the other, so maybe let's work a little bit on beating a De La Hiva pull, right? Like I think that that's valuable and it's like beneficial for your training holistically. It's not invaluable just because it's one person one day. It'll help you long term to learn that skill.
Yes, almost setting up for this collective of people that you'd be going against.
Yeah,
instead
in the
of
future. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's looking at people individualized, but it still improves your jujitsu overall holistically. It's just, you know, if there are 10 things you need to work on, maybe you focus on the 2 that are pertinent to that particular competition and the people you're going to face.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that that's really helpful. Actually looking at the people. I know some people really don't like that, but having a coach guide you through that. Have you ever had anyone do that for you, or have you done that? Or do you not like looking at people?
So I have a hard time with looking up people and kind of watching what they do. So I kind of lean on coaches.
I've done it before you before, yeah.
And
does it make you anxious, like more anxious to see them? Or
yes.
Okay, yeah. And I think that's valuable, and that's why I think a coach can be really helpful with that. And they don't even necessarily need to ever tell you that they did it. They can or they can't.
Jacob didn't necessarily tell me he did, but I could tell that he did just based off things he was telling me, because you had told me those things as well.
Yeah. So it's like, well, consider this and this and just be ready for it. And again, it's still going to help your jujitsu holistically. Another thing that coaches can be helpful with on the before competing side, I think, is managing weight cuts, tournament prep, maybe even just like general fitness type stuff outside the gym. I think that that's really tricky because we have people that run the gamut from true hobbyists who are doing this for fun to professional competitors. So how much support someone wants or needs is going to vary dramatically. I think that, you know, it's hard because people have lives outside of jiu-jitsu, and I don't know that I necessarily want to be like fully told what to do. Like, I don't know that I want like a full conditioning regimen.
Well, right.
But some support and like person-centered guidance in that way, I think is helpful. You know, if the person needs it, but being able to offer that advice or just have it like open-ended that you're able to offer that to someone, I think is incredibly helpful. And then, you know, another thing is mental coaching, right? Helping people reduce nerves and increasing confidence. And, you know, we talked last week in one of our listener questions about how coaches aren't mental health professionals. But, you know, ideally, like a coach is able to at least do that, right? That they're able to help you manage nerves. I think that's 100% within the purview of a good coach.
Yeah.
And that they kind of know how to do that, and they're able to person center that to the individual as well. So then the thing that we all think about is during the match. So big things, you know, clear and concise communication, knowing what to say and when, also managing emotions, you know, in real time, and then understanding that specific athlete's strengths and weaknesses to give feedback is incredibly important. And I think that you have to know the person and whether or not that's the time and the place to do it.
Yeah.
I actually think you are very easy to coach in that way. You don't always want it, but like sometimes you do. You'll say like, okay, what did I do wrong there that I need to get right in the next match? Or, you know, I finished gi. What do I need to think about for no gi? Like, what did you see? I've heard you ask that question before. And I think that that's great. And like a lot of people, that might be too much in the moment. I think I actually would have a hard time with that. I think I just need to like, I've done everything I can to get ready for this day. I need to get through the day. I would like to get to a place where I'm more like you, but I think that's a thing coaches can do during the day if that person is receptive to it and they kind of have the mental toughness to handle that. Kind of saying, hey, this happened to you twice. Let's talk about that. Selma's very mentally tough in that way, where like you can pull her off the mat and you can say, Petra, same way. Like same sort of mentality. We can pull them off and you're like, you did this, you need to do this. And they're like, yes. Like they like that. Like there's something about them where they're like, they like that like intensity, kind of being told really specific like feedback in the moment. They're not like, I did my best. You know, like they're like, yeah, hell yeah, like let's go. They get really like hyped, and I think that feedback like goes into that like hype cycle, win or lose for them.
Yeah, I would agree with
Those
that.
are two of our training partners and friends, but you know, I'm not one of those people personally.
Not yet.
Yeah, maybe. And then, you know, another big thing is like post-match coaching. And I'm also curious about this with you. Like, have you had people do this with you? But, you know, breaking down your matches, like ideally your coach is there. Coaches can't go everywhere you're going necessarily,
right,
especially if you're flying away for tournaments. But, you know, not just like watching it in the moment or being there in the moment, but also like rewatching it, maybe rewatching it with you or rewatching it and then pulling you aside or having like an actual conversation where you go through it and you talk about it. I either matches or just rolls. Like I will send them to Jacob. And then when we do a private, he will say, okay, you're still, I mean, this just happened. You are still getting outside passed this way. And not just that, but here is why I think that's happening. Let's try this instead. And whether that's a competition setting or just like roll footage, I think that that's incredibly helpful for my growth because it's so specific to what I'm doing generally, like the trends.
Yeah.
Have you had that happen for you before?
Yeah. So I have a collective of coaches where I kind of will, if available, I can send the footage to them if it's short enough because, technology. But if not, like from the Arnolds, I sat down with AJ and Risser and actually like talked through a couple of my matches that I couldn't send them. Jacob always will talk through with me when we get to our privates, like you mentioned. So yeah, I find it very helpful. I watch matches day of, right after they happen.
I can't.
Yeah.
I actually have never watched any of my matches back.
I do it.
You should. No, I mean, I'm not bragging.
No, yeah.
It's a good thing.
I do it all the time. Like at the Arnolds, I watched my Nogi matches. And then I'm like, okay. Or the Nogi match I did. And then I was like, okay, now going into the gi match, think about these things. But I mean, after tournaments, if you and I go out to eat or something, I'm literally sitting there watching my match at least once. And we talk through it.
Usually the first question I have is like, how did you feel about that? And you're like, I didn't do my best, or I feel fine. And I'm like, no, I mean like, no, like what did you fuck up? What did you do really well? Like, let's
like specifics.
Like, let's get into it. And you're just like, I'm vibing.
Yeah. But, you'll watch my matches back if we're driving back from wherever it was.
Yeah.
And talk me through it.
Yeah. I like doing that. I like thinking about my matches back because I have a good memory, so I don't really need to watch them. That's a little too painful. I will talk through it though. Like I will, from memory, talk through it because I tend to remember. You don't. You're like, I blacked out. I need to rewatch it. And I'm the opposite. I remember every moment painfully.
Yeah, I will not remember. I don't even remember rolls we have in the gym, let alone with all that adrenaline.
Do you think like this pre and post work, like what are like the lines in terms of what a coach, the thing is like, if you're paying a coach to kind of be like your coach individually, right? Like maybe they're doing privates with you, that's very different. Mm-hmm. But if you're training under someone and they own a gym and you're paying a gym membership,
right?
How much individualized attention should you expect? I think that that's really tricky, and I don't know that there's one answer. But what we're talking about is individualized attention for competitors, because that is time during, even going to a competition and giving up your weekend, for your competitors. And then after, I think for me personally, I think that is part of that gym membership. I don't think it is just instruction, or it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I consider those things to be part of the coach's job. I think there's a balancing act there, right?
Yeah.
But I think individualized attention should happen. I don't think like you're only paying for
in-class instruction.
Group like instruction. And I think if you are, you need to be really clear with people that that's the case and that you're not offering anything individualized. That makes it also really hard for people to improve if you're not.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
But do you feel similarly?
Yeah, I feel similarly. It's hard. I mean, I don't own a gym, obviously, but what if you have like an entire group of people that are competitors? So
I mean, I would argue that that's how you keep the clientele that are.
No, I mean, I agree, but
it's kind of inherent in like that they're paying their membership fee. Like if they're not getting that attention, they're going to leave probably, or they should.
Yeah, it's then do you bring in other coaches to help relieve burden of trying to individualize help for every single person?
Yeah, this kind of gets to a question that we had come in about like main coach versus like side coaches too. But I think a thing that happens organically is people start to gravitate toward coaches or higher belts for their training, whether it's training generally or competition, or they start to identify people who have games similar to them that they want to emulate. And so maybe some of that kind of happens organically where people just kind of
gravitate towards other.
Yeah, because like, I mean, when I was a white belt, Makarsky helped me get ready for most of my matches more than anyone, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think he ever coached me in competition. He probably should have been in hindsight, but like he actually did most of my like individualized like competition prep, if I'm being honest. He was always there for comp classes. He showed me things individually. We worked on freaking flying triangles for months at one point.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one-on-one. So it was like, I think that just kind of happens at different phases organically to a certain degree.
I would agree with that.
So this is a kind of a big question, but how much does a coach really impact performance in a match? Because, you know, we've also been to competitions where we've not had a coach, or you go to competitions enough, you see people without coaches. Like, what is the value of a coach?
That is a big question. So,
because you can do it without someone there.
I mean, you've done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
It's just, I find it very helpful to have someone who's calm, clear, and concise when directing information at me. I do love a good hype as well. Don't get me wrong. But that's why I find, like I mentioned earlier, Risser to be a really good coach for me, is because I can hear her saying very direct things and it's very calm. She's not mad at me for not doing it fast enough or not doing it at all. Because sometimes she'll tell me to do things and I look at her and I shake my head and then I won't do it.
Yeah.
Which I know you've literally done to her as well.
Yes, 100%.
But,
well, she told me to stand up and that's rude.
Right. But, and I appreciate the way she speaks back to me because she'll be like, all right, we're not doing that. That's fine. How about this? I think that's a good quality to have in having someone there for you to be able to deliver that concise information.
Yeah. I've done both, right? Like I've been to competitions without anyone. I think for me, I'm kind of fine either way. I hate saying that. I also said at the top of this that I think I'm hard to coach. And I think the thing for me is I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So if I know how to do something, I'm probably doing it
or trying to.
And whether or not I can execute something, someone can't help me execute something, but they can help me see something. And I think for me, a lot of my problem in competition isn't not being able to see it. It's like either fear of getting injured or I can't actually execute it in the moment. And those are things someone can't really help me with. So it's like, you know, if someone just yells, get up, and I'm like, I'm fucking trying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be like shitty, but like,
yeah,
that sort of thing isn't helpful for me. But if they can tell me something that's really specific and intentional, like I've actually never had Jacob coach me in a competition, funny enough, but I have watched him coach other people and he is also kind of quiet, but he's very specific. Like, I need you to walk your hands back to the hips. And like, you know, rather than just like, I just walk, you know, like he's very specific with whatever the thing is and move this here. If he can tell that you're not doing the thing that you should be doing, like you're actually making missteps. So I think that kind of value added would be helpful for me. If it's something that I'm like making a misstep or I'm actually doing like wrong versus like not executing well. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I do think a good coach can help with your performance, but
I think they can help with nerves too, not just performance.
Yeah. It's just like I've gone to a couple competitions now where I've competed without anyone there and I felt fine. I didn't feel like it would have changed drastically if I had a coach.
Yeah.
So
same. Maybe like the reframing in between.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe for me more the value is like conversations in between, reframing the mental part and less like what's happening in the moment because I'm probably just doing my best.
Right. I think that gets forgotten.
Yeah.
Is that we're out there trying. There are a lot of common coaching mistakes as well. So you go out there and you're trying to do something and then you're hearing
Fernando.
Yeah. This happened to Fernando, where you're just hearing a ton of information being thrown at you and just overloading the senses with information details isn't helpful. Fernando hearing all those things was not helpful.
No.
It actually distracted.
It distracted poor Fernando.
Poor Fernando, which also leads into another part of it being too emotionally invested.
Fernando's coach was very emotional. She was.
Fernando's coach was very much so invested in.
I thought she was going to rip her shirt off. Like she was turned.
That would have been something. And that also led to the distraction of Fernando. I can't.
I hope his name is Fernando.
You really don't remember what his name is.
It may have been Fernando at this point.
Focusing only on technique and ignoring mental preparation. So, just telling someone, hey, you need to not get submitted.
That feels personal.
I was speaking to the collective, which is just Kelly and I in this room currently.
I'm like, hey, don't get armbarred again.
While that's specific, it does not help
with the mental aspect.
With the mental aspect, which for many, many years, that is the only information I got.
Don't get armbarred.
Don't get armbarred. And then,
I did ask you very nicely to put your butt not in the air your last match. I said, can you stop putting your butt in the air, please? And can you get a crossface, please?
You did add please a lot, which I didn't hear any of that.
Well,
but I appreciate the niceness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, giving generic advice instead of more personal, situation-based guidance. Again, don't get armbarred.
Sweep. How?
Submit. It's just you really need to explain to someone how to do something.
They either know how to do it or they don't.
Or they don't, and they need the help.
And they need the help, right?
And again, that could be even after the match, walking them through a specific sweep or...
You keep having this rustle up opportunity.
So let's work on it.
You're not seeing it. So here's when that moment is. Do this.
Yes, yeah. I'm curious. Aside from Fernando, what is an example of a coaching moment that backfired?
Fernando's my favorite example. I think... Oh, well, I have a not jiu-jitsu answer. Is that okay?
I'll take it.
So when I was in 4-H and I showed rabbits, my very first year that I did a competition called Rabbit Royalty.
Ooh, sounds fancy.
Which is literally has nothing to do with the quality of your animals. It's showmanship. So herdsmanship. If you don't know what that means, just let's move on. There's a test. It's nerdy, okay, right? It's based on your knowledge and your handling of the animals, not the quality of your animals. Anyway, I, at 10 years old, went to the Indiana State Fair, and it was my first year in regular 4-H. I had been a mini 4-Her, and I wasn't really taken super seriously leading up to it because I was first year of 4-H or whatever. And then I got there and I won the whole fucking thing. And I was the 1997 Indiana State Fair Rabbit Royalty Princess.
Oh my God.
I also won Queen and Duchess at some point. But anyway.
Those sound cool.
Yeah. So that happened, and my 4-H leader, she's not going to listen to this, so what the fuck ever. I'll just tell you the story. She cried. She left and she cried because it wasn't good enough, because I was the only one from the county that won. I felt like shit.
I fucking bet. How old were you? You said 10?
10.
I bet you felt like shit.
Yeah, and it was the most exciting moment of my life. I had a tiara and a sash, and it was really great. And it happened on legitimately a really big stage, and it was and it's competitive. It's all 90-something counties in Indiana. It's a big deal. And I was brand new and fucking nailed it my first year. And yeah, so that you're okay, that's nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, but I think that is very transferable when you have coaches that are that toxic where it's not good enough.
Not good enough, yeah.
Yeah, you can even win and it can be not good enough because the team didn't do well enough, or other preferred competitors in that case didn't do well enough. So I haven't actually had that happen to me in jiu-jitsu, but I'm sure that there's someone out there listening who's had something similar happen. So that's my not jiu-jitsu or combat sports example.
Okay, yeah. I mean, wow. First of all, congratulations.
Also, fuck that lady.
Also, fuck that lady. Well, how can coaches improve their ability to communicate under pressure instead of crying?
Instead of crying?
Yeah.
I think that coaching is a skill. I don't think I'm as good of a competition coach as you, for example. So I understand that. I'm better also at classroom instruction than you.
I also think it depends on who you're coaching.
Yeah, I actually think I think there's people that I'm actually good for. But a lot of people I'm not, and I recognize that. So you are a better coach for them. either because you know their game better or they do need someone who's a little more hype. Someone who mostly wants someone who's quiet and is only going to offer very specific feedback, you know, that's detailed and specific to them and more limited, I'm better for.
But Kelly's your guy.
Yeah, like if I can tell you know what you're trying to do, like I'm not going to tell you how to sweep from De La Riva. You know the sweep. If you're not maybe off balancing the person enough, then I can be like, you need to off balance them more, or like, you know what I mean, like a really specific thing. I'm good at that kind of stuff, but I think that it comes through practice. So just like teaching, like the more you do it, the better you get.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, that's unfortunate because then your competitor's your guinea pig. So a thing you could do is, you know, obviously your coach has the opportunity in the gym to like coach you, right? Like they should be there. So it could be during rounds where you have a conversation. I hate when people coach me and I'm just rolling and vibing. I actually said something to you the other day because you were coaching one of the white belts. And I'm like, did that person ask you to do that? Because that's so distracting. Because I saw them like looking over and I'm like, don't do that to someone in the middle of a round. So have a conversation beforehand.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe do that. And then like it's practice for them getting information shouted at them and it's practice for you coaching. Also, if you're doing competition prep, I don't think that we, as a collective, that's not specific to a gym, do enough like simulated competitions, like in comp training. I think that we should do more of those. And then that would be an opportunity to have people get coaching experience. And I think sometimes it should be multiple people shouting at them too and getting used to that because that is more realistic. Having noise playing in the background, having it not be like a really quiet atmosphere.
Maybe noise, but not necessarily music.
Okay. I always play music. I'm really wild about that. I actually think that we shouldn't. Like
when you're rolling rounds.
I don't think you should have music while you're rolling because you don't in competitions.
I've had competitions where they play music.
That's not normal.
But it's not the norm. It's
yeah, I really think that it changes the tempo and everything. So I really think that if you're competition prepping, you shouldn't have music. And I don't think it's that weird. Once you get used to it, it's not weird.
No, when you're at a competition, you're not
thinking about it either. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. We rolled last Friday with no music because I didn't have the cable for like the speakers. So we just rolled in silence and it was fine once we got going. It didn't feel weird at all to me. I wasn't thinking about it.
I didn't even know we didn't have music.
Until I just said it.
Until you just said it.
I only remember that because I didn't know if other people were rolling and were going to think it was weird. So I was thinking about it. So yeah, I think that can help. I think knowing the particular athlete and their style, both in terms of like what they need, but also their game plan is helpful too.
Yeah.
So learning, like talking to them and being like, what kind of things do you want to hear from me? And that requires letting go of like some ego where,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You're not just like, here's what I think you need to know, but like, what do you want to hear from me? What's helpful? You know, what kind of communication?
Yeah. I mean, I know.
Do you want it to be me? Do you want it to be someone else? Like,
I know I've been talking about Risser a lot, but she does coach me in a lot of competitions. And I've had a time where she's like, at this point in time, what do you need to hear from me? And I'm like, I just need you to hype me up right now. Like, that's it. That's all I need. And she's like, done. Let's hype. So it could evolve over time is what I'm saying. Or evolve competition-wise.
So that's actually a really good point that it could be even match to match. Mm-hmm. Like later in the day, you may need something a little different.
Yeah.
You might want the hype. I remember when we were coaching, because Petra had asked you to coach also. So like you were coaching Petra at the Indy Open, Risser's coaching Petra as well. I think we were kind of just collectively coaching Petra, to be honest. And the very last match, like Petra had swept the competition that weekend. It was pretty clear she was just going to win that match. She was doing the same thing she was doing in all the others. And Risser's like, I'm not even going to say anything to her at this point.
Yeah, just
like,
let her go.
So I think also like that's a way you can improve your communication style is just like recognizing that. Like she's doing the same thing she's been doing and she's solving the problems the same way she's been solving them. She's not running into an obstacle right now, so there's no need to say anything.
Yeah.
Like why distract her? Just let her do her thing. She's good. So I think that that's helpful. And then, you know, don't be a Fernando's coach. Like, you know, just like stay composed. Like there's a difference between hype and like being like crazy. So don't be a Fernando coach.
Don't rip your shirt off.
Don't rip your shirt off. That should just be like added to the lore. Then she ripped her shirt off at the end. She didn't, but.
Or did she?
I don't know.
I wasn't there, so I have no idea.
You know, maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. So, I mean, to that end, like how to be a better competition coach, not just in terms of communication style, but like more generally. So we talked about like adapting to different athletes and knowing what they thrive on. Another important point is knowing the rule set as a coach. That can be really, really helpful. I mean, essential in some cases.
Yeah.
As a competitor, know your rule set, but your coach needs to know it as well to inform you properly of what to do. And, we talked about like effective communication strategies, but short, clear commands versus like really detailed instruction, unless like the detailed instruction is necessary. So like you want to be specific. So like sweep isn't specific. You want to like figure out what the person's having trouble with the sweep to like give them specific instruction, but they also can't take in like a Danaher instructional in the moment. So knowing how to like balance the two, I think is really important. Any sort of keywords that particular athlete's familiar with, and in general, coaching in a way that prevents tunnel vision, panic, that sort of thing. Again, not being Fernando's coach. This all goes back to just don't be Fernando's coach.
Don't be Fernando's coach.
I also think, and this is something one of my coaches, Jared, is exceptionally good at, keeping the athletes mentally strong the day of. So reframing your mistakes, helping reset between rounds. He's just really, really good at that. Really, really good at that in a way that feels very like natural and organic and not forced. Because, sometimes people say things and you're like, that's easier said than done, or you're just saying that. But like, he really has a very like authentic way of doing that I appreciate. And just like in general is good at like managing nerves and taking losses constructively so that they're not anything more than like a learning opportunity.
Yeah, it's not weighing
down
data on you.
It's data. So more on the rule sets though. How important do you think it is that coaches know the rule sets? Obviously athletes should too.
Right.
But how important is it that coaches know rule sets?
I would say it's extremely important. I mean, if you do not know the rule set, how are you to coach effectively at that point in time? If you do not know whether or not you need to have a grip to pull guard in the rule set for that tournament, if your student comes up to you and says, or you're talking to your student, you're like, you need to pull guard for this match, and they ask you, do I have to have a grip to pull guard?
Especially no-gi, that's incredibly important to know.
Right. And you don't know, it's hard to be an effective coach in that in that aspect. I mean, I think,
or if you can't pull guard at a certain point because
you'll get penalized,
ADCC rule set or whatever, you'll get penalized. Like those things are important to know. Yeah, and I think that it's hard for any individual to fully memorize every single like aspect of a rule set, and so that's where coaches in general knowing the rule set, all of them, and the athletes, it's like you hope that the collective knows.
It's almost having like an SME in a specific rule set. So like,
a SME.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, subject matter expert.
I was like, what is that?
Having maybe each coach be a subject matter expert in a specific rule set.
Yeah.
And they be the person you come to ask questions.
Yeah.
Could be very valuable.
Well, I think especially as alternatives to IBJJF become more popular too. It's easy if you're just talking about IBJJF rules, but they are not the predominant no-gi organization anymore.
Absolutely not.
I mean, they're just not, and that's fine, but there's so much variation, so it's like there's a lot of commonality amongst gi rule sets, but knowing the specifics of the various no-gi rule sets, I think it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, so maybe having those groups would be important and helpful. One coach versus multiple coaches, does that matter? It just depends. I always say that. It depends.
I mean, I think it does, though. Again, it goes back to everything's person-centered.
Yeah. And
it depends on the person. So I think there's benefits to one coach, and I think there's benefits to multiple coaches, and then you add the nuance that everyone's different. So I'm not going to use the gym name, I decided, but I have a very specific example of there's a major team.
Yes.
That most of us know. And when they are known for barricade presence. Like they are always there, very high, lots of people shouting, very energetic. That is their gym culture and their gym style.
Right.
And you might have multiple people shouting at you. You, in fact, will. Interestingly enough, their head coach doesn't actually say a lot. And I will say the gym name because I need to say the specific person. I want to.
Okay.
So it's Pedigo. And Spatch is now a brown belt, but when he was a purple belt, you would see him on the sidelines at like a Who's Number One as a purple belt coaching black belts or brown belts or whatever.
Yeah.
And Heath would be there too.
Yeah.
And usually the more quiet one.
Of the two.
Of the two. And I think that that's really, really, really cool. It shows like a letting go of ego. It shows, I like that. I have a hard time with like hierarchies.
Yeah.
Like in general. And there's so much of that in jujitsu, especially very traditional gyms. And I like the idea of a collective rather than like a
daddy,
like personally. And so I like multiple coaches, multiple influences. I think it makes you stronger, but it builds community.
Mm-hmm.
And it builds community that's not based on a person or persons.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like it being centered around any individual or a few individuals. So I like that.
Yeah.
But it does mean that you have to be pretty good at like hearing a lot of different people talking at you.
Yeah.
So I have a other example that's the complete opposite. We had a friend we were coaching and she was very anxious and she's like, I don't want a lot of people yelling at me. I really struggle with that. And to a certain degree, like I think you do have to kind of get over that if you're going to compete.
Because even if people don't actually know you, they might still be yelling at you.
They will just do it, period. Like it's just going to happen. You're going to have to get used to that. So it's almost like you need to be desensitized to it. But for that day, it wasn't the day that was going to happen. So there was a decision that you were going to coach anything on the ground. There was a judo black belt who's going to do the standing.
Mm-hmm.
I informally just became like the mother hen. So I was talking to her between matches, both about technique and like the mental stuff, more than you.
Yes.
And more than the other coach. And I also was bad guy. So when someone was shouting wrestling advice at this judoka.
Right.
I very kindly told our team member, I was very nice, but I'm like, hey, actually, so-and-so is coaching her on standing. Like, this is distracting. And that person got pissed at me.
Angry.
Pissed. Actually, like, left the competition entirely. Later apologized. It's all good. Whatever. Turns out to be a transphobe, so I don't like him anyway. But let me just say I'm never wrong about people, by the way.
Yeah. No,
I'm not.
Keep going.
Anyway. So, yeah, that happened. And, like, that was a situation where it was really important that for that person, we recognize that, like, they are struggling with this. Just make sure it's one person talking.
Especially when it was a team member that you could actually talk to about it. It's not some random person.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can't do anything about the random guy screaming. Although I'm not above being like, hey, could you actually not? Like, if I knew that you had a problem with that and I heard someone doing that or someone was doing that to any of our folks and I know that they don't like that, I would 100% be the bad guy for someone else.
Right.
Like, I'm fine doing that so that you don't have to. I'd be like, hey, can you not? Like, that's really distracting. I don't think telling someone no or like holding a boundary is mean.
No.
As long as you say it politely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have no problem with that. But those are kind of like very contrary examples. So like you said at the very beginning, it depends.
It really does depend.
It depends on the person. It depends on the gym culture. So if you have that culture of like going to competitions, lots of shouting, maybe in your competition prep, it's loud, it's energetic. Folks are already going to be used to that. And you can still pick out like specific voices.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, you hear everyone generally, but then you hear Spatch's voice because it's very distinctive.
Which I've actually had Spatch coach me at
phenomenal
Nogi Worlds, and I won that match is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he's one of the best coaches ever.
But I'll kind of talk about like the benefits of having one coach.
Yeah, because it can be helpful.
It really can. Clearing a consistent voice that an athlete can very much focus on. So I have a hard time hearing other people than Risser.
You can't even hear me.
I can't, and you're my wife.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very difficult for me. I did hear you say please once, but I didn't know what it was for. So I think that can be very helpful. And it also becomes helpful in not being as confused if you're hearing conflicting advice. So like, let's say you're saying, do a guillotine and Risser's telling me to straight ankle. It's like, wait, those are completely opposite ends of the body.
I was like, I don't know how both would be relevant, but cool.
And neither of you would give that completely opposite advice, but that's just like, it won't confuse the person. A coach who knows their competitor's game the best is going to be able to give the most effective advice for that person. But there are, like we've talked about, benefits in having multiple coaches. You get multiple perspectives, and one coach may see a mistake opening real time that another coach is not seeing. So like,
oh yeah, it doesn't matter how good you are. People see different things.
Absolutely. That's why if I'm helping with coaching someone like Petra, with Risser, I do a lot of listening to Risser. And if Petra's not hearing Risser, I will just say the things again, but maybe a more assertive. That's a nice way of saying loud.
Mm-hmm. Petra has said that she likes you yelling at her, though, so that's her choice.
I like to be loud. Also, I think you mentioned this earlier. Another voice could just be supportive.
Oh, yeah. It's like pro wrestling where you have like color commentary and then you have like the technical commentary, right? Like people provide different things in the moment too.
So in that aspect, one coach can focus on giving you technique advice while another one can manage
time,
time,
be supportive,
just emotions. I mean, yeah. And actually, you mentioned that earlier when the three of us were coaching that one competitor, we all had different avenues that we were working. And so it was probably helpful to not have all three of us doing the same thing at the same time.
Do you think it's easier to have multiple coaches in the before and after stuff too? Like the day of, it's very person centered, but you know, when we're talking about like the pre-prep and the after,
I would say yes.
Feedback. It's probably, yeah. I mean, I was going to say yes too. Like it's probably easier in that case to find kind of a role for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of a collective versus a daddy.
Yeah, so. I do too.
But there are potential issues with having multiple coaches. So too many cooks in the kitchen or even just in a competition standpoint, having too many voices yelling at you at once, it can overwhelm people.
Yeah, for sure.
Contradictory instruction. So again, like I mentioned before, maybe Kelly telling me to guillotine while Risser's telling me to straight ankle.
It would be the opposite, but okay.
It would, but that's what I was
I know,
keeping. I was keeping with the
theme.
The theme. Yeah. And if a competitor is used to hearing one voice, hearing all these other voices might really throw them off, and that could just kind of mess with the tempo of the match itself.
So we had one listener question come in a couple weeks ago that I held for this episode specifically.
Yeah.
And I will read it and let you give the first shot at answering. But at my gym, our head coach assumes he's coaching in competitions. My problem is that I have a closer relationship with another black belt in my gym who I feel knows my game plan better, and his style of coaching seems to work better for me for some reason. How do I navigate this? I know my coach may say he doesn't care, but knowing him, I'm afraid he would.
So the way I would navigate it specifically is just be honest with your coach and tell them. And if they get butthurt about it, I think that's on them personally.
I think people fear retaliation, or they fear that when you make someone unhappy, that affects the attention you receive, promotions, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you start to worry that way, that is a red flag, and you probably shouldn't be training there anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like I know that's a very bold statement, but
I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's really kind of the bottom line. And I, as someone who, I just like, I care a lot about what people think, but I can't let myself care a lot about what people think, if that makes sense. Like I actually really do fret about it a lot, but I just recognize that like boundaries are really important and I have to establish them even if it's painful. So we've had people ask either of us, mostly you, because no one wants me to coach them, to coach. And I have said, have you said to whoever that that's what you want? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then we won't.
Yeah.
Unless they've said it, like, unless we either know that they've told that person that you're coaching, or they've been vocal, like, you know, Petra's like, I want Andrea coaching me, and like said it in front of everyone, right? Like,
yeah.
Unless you're going to do that explicitly, I'm not getting in the middle of that relationship.
That's not your place.
It's not my place. So it's like, yes, absolutely. But you need to tell this person who is going to assume that they're coaching that they're not. And the people we train with, I always say they won't care. You just need to tell them. And
if you don't tell them, they won't know. How do they know?
Won't know. So I don't know. I really think that that's really on the competitors. I do think maybe as coaches we could ask, and I'm usually asked. I like when Risser coaches me too because I can hear Risser.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I probably train more regularly under AJ or Jacob.
Yeah.
So they know my game the best.
But
Jared's a great coach. I cannot hear him. You know, like they're just different. Like it's something about voices. So it's like, it's a funny thing that it's not like I like this person the most. We don't need to get butthurt about it. I don't know why.
It's not that deep.
You can't hear me.
Not at all.
Right? Like it's not a personal thing.
It really isn't.
I know the people I train with know that.
Yeah.
Like the coaches that I work with all, you know, whatever. I know they're not going to be butthurt about it. So you might be right. Like your coach might be butthurt about it. But if that's the case, again, I think that that's a massive red flag. And you might just need to either have a direct conversation or decide that, you know, if someone's going to be that silly about it, that you need to go elsewhere. Yeah. And I know that's so much easier said than done.
I mean, it really is.
You can't put up with that shit.
No.
You know, you really can't. Like,
life's too short.
Life's too short. And if you're doing this sport, you probably love it, because people don't do it and kind of like are mid about it. Like, we all really love it. So, you know, if you're doing it and you love it, like, respect your own time and your own sanity and don't put up with that kind of crap.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So that was probably not helpful.
You're welcome.
You're so welcome. All right. Questions for each other. So I will go first. If you could build the perfect competition coach, what qualities would they have for you specifically? So not like a universal sort of thing.
So for me specifically, I need someone who can adapt to the way I need to be coached on the specific day. So,
and who knows you're fickle?
Yes. Yeah. I just need someone who can work with me, essentially.
Can I ask a question about that?
Please.
Because I want to know so I can help you.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask on the air. Do you want someone who also tries to push you a little with that? In like, I kind of did this to you a couple days ago when you were doing a private and I was up here. And you were like, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, let's problem solve. Like, you can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. You want to do this and you want to submit from bottom, or you want to sweep and be on top. Like I'm like, let's like narrow down the path, because we're kind of all over the place. Like, is that helpful? Because you are indecisive, you know that about yourself.
Yeah. And
you don't like making decisions.
Not at all.
Do you need someone who recognizes that and pushes you a little in that way while allowing you to still, at the end of the day, be your own person?
What I've figured out is yes. But that's a more recent development in me understanding that that's helpful.
So you probably need to make the decision. You don't need someone making the decision for you, but you need someone to tell you to make the decision. like help you get there.
Yeah. I mean, also, if someone wanted to make decisions for me, that's
You
fine.
shouldn't. You shouldn't make decisions for Andrea. She needs to learn.
Well, never mind then. You asked me what for my perfect competition. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I need guidance in making decisions. I don't need someone to make decisions for me, but I do need help kind of. I have ADHD, so my mind is everywhere and anywhere all the time. So I really need like...
Well, that's why I'm asking, because you are incredibly indecisive when it comes to competitions. Like,
I mean, I just kind of go out there and be like, I'm just going to do whatever feels right, man.
It drives me nuts.
It doesn't always work.
I think it drives a lot of us nuts, to be honest.
Oh, I bet it does.
Because we're like, let us help you.
But yeah, so I don't know. What about you?
I think I don't know. Someone who doesn't say a whole lot. I really like, if you were quiet the entire match, I'd be fine.
Which, when you compete, I usually don't say a whole lot anymore.
I
don't think you find it helpful. I'm not helpful. I might tell you time. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I think I kind of just need that personally. I don't like hype. I don't like you saying, get your grips, get to your game, anything like that. That's not useful for me.
Yeah.
For me, if you are saying something, I want it to be so fucking important that it's like worth me diverting my attention away from the thing I'm doing. Because every time I have to listen to you, I cannot fully focus on trying to do jujitsu.
Yep.
And so I want you to act like it costs you money every time you say things.
That's a great way to phrase it.
No, really. And like, a lot of people would not agree with me on this, but this is for me.
Yeah. No, I'm
seriously,
asking.
I want it to be like, fuck, it's $100 every time I say something to her, or whatever a lot of money is to you. Like, I want someone to be very judicious. And if you're quiet the entire fucking time, that's fine. Because I have a hard time paying. It's not, I said I'm hard to coach. I actually don't think I'm hard to coach. I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I find that distracting, not helpful.
Yeah.
unless it is something I can't see. So like a opening that I'm not aware of. But if I'm trying to do it and just not executing it, then maybe if you have like a tweak for how I'm trying to execute it, that could be helpful. But yeah, otherwise I don't need it.
Yeah. All right.
I really need someone to be really direct with me after
Okay.
or before. In the moment, no. Like, I liked that the last time, like I said, I sent Jacob a roll. He said, you are still getting outside pass the same way. Like, we worked on this, homie, like, but it's still happening. Let's work on it again. And he more specifically, like, we had worked on it, but then he saw very specifically what I was doing wrong. I want that. I want, like, because I can't always see those things.
Yeah.
If I'm doing the same thing and failing over and over again, I want that data. So
yeah.
That's really what I want from a coach.
Oh, I'll go into my question then. Do you already have the close to perfect competition coach for yourself?
No.
Oh.
Well, you don't really say much.
Yeah.
Risser actually doesn't. Risser knows I don't want a lot of words.
Yeah.
And is pretty respectful of that. And like I said, I think Jacob would be a good coach for me. I just don't have Jacob usually coaching me at competitions.
Yeah.
And I'm not really planning on competing aside from Noki World. So I imagine that it's generally going to be you and I out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe because you don't really say a lot, but you also don't give me any feedback on what I've done wrong at all.
Yeah, I'm really bad at that.
So I need that. But I get that from other people.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I've said her name quite a bit today.
Your daddy. You said you didn't want a daddy, and then you're just like...
I've got a daddy. I lied. It's Risser.
Yeah.
I just feel I just get the most out of her coaching.
What's funny is she's so quiet, but like her voice, it's her little snarky voice. I say that with love because I love that about her. The little comments just like slice through the air. But she's actually really quiet.
Yeah.
Like her voice doesn't really carry.
I can hear it.
I know, I can too. It's like, it's funny. I think part of it for me was also, I've had, AJ's great too, but I've had AJ coach me less because we had so many white belt women in particular when I was starting. And so we just divided and conquered. And for whatever reason, I just got put in the Risser camp. I think because I drilled and worked with Risser so much, I just kind of got put in her camp. So I've like learned her voice, even though AJ's objectively way louder.
Oh, absolutely.
The loudest person. Like you can, I love when you go to like a tournament and you're like, where are they? And then you hear AJ like across the room coaching someone and you're like, they're over there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny. It's funny that it's not always just about volume. It literally is just like what you're attuned to for whatever reason. So
yes, my daddy.
Your daddy. Oh my gosh. All right. What things do we have coming up? Speaking of them.
This weekend.
Oh, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Oh shit. Well, this weekend...
You can't come to it, so it doesn't matter, but
those who are, we're really excited to see you.
Yeah.
Is Let's Roll Queer Grappling Camp. And I don't need to tell you where it is because you're not coming.
Yeah.
Or you are.
Or you are.
But what else is coming up is the Role Model Women's Only Grappling Camp. And that's in Plainfield, Indiana, July 11th through the 13th.
All right. Where can people find us?
People can find the podcast, letsrollradio.com, and at Let's Roll Radio on TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Instagram. You can also find us in Discord, and that link is in the bio. You can find me, Andrea Shennigy, at ShennigyA, and my wife, Kelly, at Kelly Shennigy on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Instagram.
Do you not think I'm beautiful anymore?
I hate you. Goodbye.
Bye.